Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Donkey Kong Country. In the last part we finished off Croc Industries Incorporated and now we're in the final world, Chimp Caverns, and we're almost done with it and we're immediately in a bonus stage. The final world actually has a couple things like this. Either way, welcome to, I think this level's name is Loopy Lights? Or something like that. The main gimmick of this area is it's basically another version of Stop and Go Station. And then it has those special barrels that obviously say on and off. However, they only switch on the lights, and the only thing the lights do is allow you to see the platforms, more or less. You can still see the claptraps and such. And even then, first off, I should mention the claptraps in this level are of the purple variety, so they'll jump when you jump, so watch out for that. When the lights are off, you can still see stuff, as you can see. It's just that it's not very clear, especially whenever there's a bottomless pit. So it's recommendable to go through this level with the lights on, however, you can completely ignore them and just go through it regardless. And honestly, for a second to last level, or at least normal level, at least not kind of like the two boss fights we still have to do this part, it's pretty underwhelming. Honestly, Stop and Go Station would have made a better second to last level than this. But, I do like how they are still using the very quiet music that was also in Misty Minds here, though. It's a very good track, it's just that there's not much actual melody to it. At least not for a while. And we're gonna get one last bonus game for the road. I completely forgot that this happened, actually. Well, how's that for visual mood whiplash? Actually, that is one thing I like about the bonus stages, is that they make them take place in different aesthetics. Espresso here takes place in the jungle, Winky in the cave, On Guard underwater, obviously, and Rambi in the ice area. So I guess they use their level variety to their advantage there. I think even Rambi has the ice physics, so that's kind of annoying. But, it's cool, I suppose. 7 more lives to the road, I'm not going to complain. Even though, at this point, I really do not need them. And I should mention, I actually have died in this LP, but none of it was shown. Why? I usually died before I hit a checkpoint. And even then, when you're at the level of lives I am, it doesn't really matter. Because when you're over 99, when you die, the number doesn't go down. At this point, I've got to be like towards the 140 range. It's ridiculous. Lives are not a hard thing to get in this game. Honestly, looking at this level, though, I am pretty glad I never made it this far into the game as a kid, because, honestly, even more than, like, the creepy rock craws, or whatever they were called back at the Stop and Go Station, this level probably would have terrified me as a kid, purely because of the darkness in the eyes. And there were things in games that scared me as a kid. God, the shark in the bottom of that pool in Ocarina of Time in particular just got to me for some reason. And looking across at my game collection as well for something else. That plant thing that's like the second boss fight, the first real boss fight in Final Fantasy IX? Yeah, that too. As well as the whole Genova zoom in at the end, well, not towards the end, about the halfway point of the Shinra HQ raid and the first disc of FF7. Either way, this is the last save point in the game, so let's take a look at where we are. 97%, not bad. Still got, that's 2 normal levels and 2 bonus levels, I believe. And this is the final normal level, and it is one of the harder ones. It also has an exclusive enemy type, the Gray Crushes. The only thing that can kill those are when you throw barrels at things. But this entire level is not that interesting, I'm not gonna lie. I guess it's their 3rd attempt at an elevator gimmick, similar to the, well, the elevators we've seen the past 2 parts, the one that had the fuel and the one that didn't. Only this time around, we're only using the arrow platforms. And it almost feels like this was just a rushed out level to make a deadline, because there's nothing really interesting here. It can be a hard level, but there's a difference between hard and interesting. Hard can be interesting, and interesting can be hard, but this is just not a case of that in mind. It's just kind of bland and boring. I do like the blue light effect, though. That's pretty cool. One thing I would like to see them try to do, though, is like a full remake of DKC's 1 through 3 with the Returns engine, because that could be very visually interesting, especially a lot of the DKC 2 and 3 stuff. Honestly, when it comes to game design, I always am more of a fan of the climactic final level, kind of like even some of the Mario games do. Because just having it be a random stage that's unrelated to the final boss in terms of location or aesthetics even, just doesn't make for an interesting final impact, you know? You gotta end a game on a bang when it's good, but this just kind of underwhelms the player in my eyes. Heck, even though it wouldn't have blended with the level aesthetic, they probably could have just improved that ever so slightly by just playing the Fear Factory theme or whatever it was from the 5th world, because that is a good song and it really feels intimidating like a final level theme, but nope, nothing like that here. Yet again, though, that is something I think the sequels improve on in that regard. Also, now we're here. You need to use the barrels that we're coming up across in order to take out the Grey Crushes, so be careful. Also, I like the death sounds for the Crushes. They just sound like they're belching. It's incredibly, like, 11-year-old humor for me, but sometimes some things just always make you giggle, you know? It's kind of like in Hook, when, don't try and stop me, Smee, don't try and stop me, Smee, try and stop me. That's always gotten me. It's not even that good of a joke, but it's just always gotten me. And this is our last bonus game, and once you know it's an on-guard token, at least I know who the best animal buddy is, but yeah, kind of underwhelming. But as we'll get into the credits, that in my eyes kind of describes DKC 1 in a nutshell. With that done, all that we have left is the second last boss fight and the final boss fight, but let's check with Cranky once again.
More freeloaders? Well, I ain't got nothing for you, so scram. Leap of faith is all it takes to find Winky Barrel Cannon Canyon. Bounce on fixed tires to hurdle obstacles and reach bonuses. Remember the original Donkey Kong? I think I'll go play that. See you later.
I've given him like a different voice every time, and that's completely on me, but I just don't care. It's Cranky. With that, let's head into Necky's Revenge. And similar to the refight against the Naughty, this is basically an upgraded Master Necky fight. I think this is like Master Necky Senior, technically. And the way that this fight's been changed is that every time you hit him, he will now throw out an extra coconut. You still need to wait for him to throw out all his coconuts in order to actually harm him, but otherwise the fight's completely unchanged. Bouncing on the tires is a good way to get past a lot of the coconuts, and it can be kind of annoying to dodge some of the coconuts. I'll give the game that, but overall, it's still not a very hard boss fight. This game's boss fights are very weak, something that the sequels definitely improved on. In both variability and in, variety, rather, and just interest level. And with that, we have access to the final level, Gangplank Galleon. However, this isn't a world, it's actually just the final boss fight. So let's head on in and face our villain, King K.Rool. The way we have to damage him is whenever he throws his crown as an attack, you have to jump on his head. He has 3 distinct phases, and the first one's pretty simple. He throws his crown, you jump on him, he'll then run from one side of the screen to the other 3 times in a row. And, well, actually no, he'll go 1 time, then twice, then 3 times. Either way, it's a very easy fight in the first phase because you just have to jump over him. Phase 2, he gets a bit more intense, and I always like how the music is perfectly timed with this. The Gangplank Galleon theme is really damn good as a final boss track. His second phase is that he'll start having cannonballs rain from the sky, and wherever the cannonball is a damage zone, even if it's bouncing on the ground. After you've damaged him in this phase, his cannonballs change him a bit by going both away from him and then back to him. And of course, with the third hit, they'll go away, toward, and away again. It's a very simple fight of pattern recognition, but it's honestly really fun. It's the most interesting boss in the game, that's for certain. It is surprisingly easy to get hit by the cannonballs, but overall, nothing to really worry about. If you have as many lives as I do at this point anyway, there's no real threat of ever getting a game over. And this is where the song gets really good with the guitar. Suck it, K.Rool. And very abruptly, that's the end of Donkey. They spelled credits wrong. Encoded. Why is all the staff the names of the enemies? Oh, I get it. It's like Mega Man. Nicknames for developers. Got it. Yeah, I guess it would be the end, question mark, since we have to get back to the island, and we already know there's 2 sequels at this point. And also, I'm completely bullshitting you. I already said there's a 3rd phase. Time for that. Yeah, that's a funny little fake-out ending, I'll admit. During phase 3, he'll jump twice across the screen and throw his crown immediately, in which case, when he jumps again, he'll jump twice back across, and then 4 times over. He'll then do this again, twice across, then I think it's like 5 times both directions or something. It's a very weird final phase, and it is pretty easy to get hit by him because his jumps are kind of hard to judge, but overall, not a hard fight.
Well done, Donkey, my boy. With a young whippersnapper like you.
Scroll.
Could have beaten that bunch of no-good Kremlings. You've made an old man proud. Go and look in your horde. I think you'll be in it for a surprise. What a player you are, Donkey, my lad. You've beaten the Kremlings. And found absolutely everything. You're nearly as good as I used to be.
I'm already better than you, old man. I got more games. And that's Donkey Kong Country. It's actually a bit of an interesting credit sequence we got going on here, because it does I think a lot of the games back then did, where it has both an enemy roll call and a credits. And Donkey Kong Country is alright. Honestly, it isn't a bad game. I just have troubles getting into it, particularly the first entry. When I eventually get to 2 and 3 later down the road, I'll have more fun with that, I can tell you that for a fact. Because Donkey Kong Country 1 is a good game, but graphics aside for the time on the Super Nintendo, it doesn't really do anything completely remarkable for the genre, you know what I mean? Mario World was just a breakthrough in terms of 2D platforming. Sonic had the speed thing. Mega Man X, if you count that as a platformer like I do, had the action-packedness. This is just kind of there in comparison. It's very safe in terms of a platformer, aside from just some really tough level designs towards Endgame. But there's just not much interesting to this game to go back to nowadays. If you want to play Donkey Kong Country 1, it's on the Super Nintendo. There's a Game Boy Advance port, which, well, it's actually more of a remake, actually, which had some extra stuff in it, I believe. And then there's a sort of port to the Game Boy Color, Donkey Kong Land, which had a lot of level design changes. It's surprisingly interesting, though. And not interesting, well done, more accurately. And in terms of what's next up for the channel, I don't know. It might be time for me to finally record the Metabots post-game, because that's getting towards ending on my end of the timeline right now. But, hell if I know what I'm gonna do. I do think the later Donkey Kong games got better with being overall interesting, though, because DKC1, well, the only thing I can remarkably go back to the only thing I find myself going back to in this game, rather, is the soundtrack, because this soundtrack is really damn good. I don't regret playing this as a kid, and I loved it as a kid, but coming back to it today, it just doesn't feel as good as it used to. You know? We all have that kind of game.
Is it my turn yet?
Calm down, old man. It is a solid game, just not one I go back to often, if at all, honestly.
Surely it's me next.
Calm down, old man. I actually really do like this game's sense of humor, though, because when it gets funny, it gets funny. Cranky in particular.
I did this using 1 life. And I took less than an hour.
That's just throwaway dialogue. You actually don't get anything you don't get anything or exclusive dialogue for doing that. And in terms of what you get for getting all the stages, the only way you know you got all the stages is by going back to the title screen after beating it, because the final boss is the final % of the game. And you get nothing for doing it. It's just bragging rights, basically. I'll give points to the later games for actually giving you something for getting most of the completion. By later games, I mean most of the returns games, but yeah, that's there, I suppose. And also, one thing I'm surprised I did not mention this entire playthrough was the Donkey Kong Country cartoon series. That horrible 3D animated one that I love to watch so much. It's so dumb. The musical sequences especially are hilariously bad. Even though the singer voice for Donkey Kong is actually, like, really good. The cartoon's kind of funny, I'll admit, for all the wrong reasons. Although I legitimately love the intro song. It's catchy as all hell. I'll probably get more into detail with making fun of it during DKC2 whenever I get to that. Also, I just realized I think this is the first Rareware game I've done for the channel, which is surprising because Rare's done a lot of good games. However, most of them are on the N64 onwards. Well, not most of them. A good amount of the really good ones are on that system onwards, and I don't have the ability to record that yet. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. I should mention them with the credits, and the screen does immediately cut to black. I didn't transition there. It just immediately does that. And I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.